Some Magic cards hold up much better than others. Did you hit the lottery and find a big card? Let's take a look at some of these cards and see just how well they're doing in today's market. Just how much value do you have hiding in your own collection? Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for hanging out today for another video. Now, we've known for the last little while that Wizards of the Coast has taken a different approach. Now, what I mean by that is, yes, they're still reprinting cards, but there's been a long cycle now between master sets that we haven't seen any major reprints of cards of value. And that means a lot of mid-range cards are starting to climb, but we also have the introduction of all these new fancy foils in the last 24 months, and many of those alternate variant cards are extremely expensive. So are they holding value? Are players still buying them? Well, yes, and yes they are. This is a very interesting time in Magic, where the collectible world has really expanded to the point that players actually probably don't track every single card in their collections. And whenever a new spicy set comes along, there's always a chance a few cards in your collection start to spike. And of course, there are other deliberate, intentional spikes that Wizards of the Coast builds on over time. Now, for the future of these cards, no one can tell you if it's going to get a reprint tomorrow or 5 years from now. And with the really rare variant cards, although they're probably never going to get a reprint, and that means that value is probably going to climb. So what do? How do we determine this, and where are the cards going? Well, the cards generally will move from collection to collection as players need to move a card or get bored of looking at it, just like any other piece of collectible in your world. But at the same time, some of these cards are so playable that that value is double fold, because not only is it pretty to look at, it may have an actual playable use and not just be something you're going to look at in a binder. It may be inside a deck as a way of blinging out and just showing off some amazing, amazing artwork. And of course, when we look at collections as they build, yes, cards will go down in price, but at the same time, a lot of cards have been going up. So I want to share some of these cards with you, talk about where they've been going, and of course, by the end of the video, I can't wait to see the comment sections about cards you have in your collection that may have jumped up. So first off, let's take a look at our first card, and this is Tiamat. Now, the reason I'm mentioning Tiamat is because of Tarkir Dragonstorm. Tiamat has always been a fairly decent card, and one of the bigger ones from Adventures in Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons. When you look at the card on the surface, a lot of people knew it was going to have some value inside Dragon Tribal, and we knew this was going to be a home for a commander deck, okay? We kind of knew it. All of us knew it. We just didn't talk a lot about it. But again, when you look at Tiamat and how amazing it is, and you look at the price point, way back in February when this thing was like, you know, an $8, $9 card, it's in crazy world to see how high the card has gone since then. This thing was spiked over $100. It stayed there, of course, not even until the end of April. Dropped down to $50, and now it's continuing to drop. But at the same time, the average price is still a couple of 100% above where it was back in February, because this card is still a valuable card to own. It is a Dragon Tribal staple for players, and it's probably only going to get better as time goes by. So the question will be, is this a card that Wizards of the Coast is more likely to reprint, or is it a specialty card like the Dragon that Wizards of the Coast actually hopes goes up in value over time by making more playable and variant dragons that they can increase the value, which means you as a collector are going to have a more rare piece of reprintable Magic the Gathering. Because again, just because they can reprint it doesn't mean they're going to. Now, if I jumped over and shared with you guys the, Mox Amber. Now, Mox Amber, of course, going way back to the beginning where most people thought was worthless, you can look now and look at the history of where it's been. And you can see this card right now still climbing in value, still slowly, steadily going up to that specialty range. It last got a reprint in Brothers War as a special variant artwork one inside that set. They were hard to find, but they were out there. And that's because they got us so many low casting cost legendary creatures. There's just so many types. I mean, yeah, it's a legendary artifact, so it kind of fits a perfect pigeonhole for Commander. It says add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. So, of course, any low level casting cost planeswalker or 1 or 0 casting cost, legendary creature is really going to attract the attention of a card like Mox Amber. Mox Jasper, which came out, still has lots of potential. So does other cards like Mox Tantalite, depending on what Wizards of the Coast does in the future. And there are players who actually speculate on these things happening and are guessing that maybe in the future they can make a lot of money. And if you look at Tiamat, you can see it does happen. Now, if we jumped over, though, and looked at rarer, kind of crazy foil, like the Galaxy Foil Ancient 2. This thing at one point spiked, the $500-$600 level at the pre-order stage. Since pre-orders, though, it's down around $300. You can see the market average is $279. You have shipping and taxes depending on where you are. And you can look at that card and say, why is this card going to stay higher in value? Well, it's pretty simple, isn't it? This card is a specialty card. They don't print it all the time. It's not going to be found in a standard set. It's not regularly found in anything but the most premium of Magic sets, and those are few and far between right now, which means a value point on this card, it's going to rebound quicker than people realize. The artwork and the picture appeal is going to drive this card probably in the future. It's a card that's going to hold value. And players, although they don't always like talking about it, they're pretty psyched when you find a cool card like this inside a pack. And the future of this card is pretty much assured because it's not going to come around every year or two. It's going to be every 4, 5, 6 years that this card becomes, back into cycle where they decide they got to lower the price a bit and cash in some of that IP. Now, if we looked at something like Ugin, Eye of Storms. Now, the regular Ugin, you can get that card for $30 now, right? It's really come down in value. But look at the Showcase Halo foil. This thing, yeah, it's off of its, early stages of like $400 or $500, but this thing still sells. All the cards I'm sharing with you still sell regularly. And that's what's kind of crazy. This is a $400 Magic card, and it is still sought out by players, not just because it's in standard, but because of how awesome the artwork is, how rare and unique it is to have a card like this in your collection. And even players I know who have been lucky enough, they're not rich players, they just got lucky and found it in a pack. They're not selling or trading this one in. They're holding on to many of these cards. And that's where things just get nutty for people. Now, if we jumped over, though, and we take a look at Duskmourn, House of Horror, the Overlord of Baelmerk. Well, this is a Japanese showcase, Fracture foil. This thing's still $170. Now, Duskmourn wasn't the best-selling set of all time. It did fairly well, but these cards aren't getting opened anymore. Just like how people talk about reserve list cards, you can see this card's not going to come around again anytime soon. And the way that Wizards of the Coast has kind of switched things up, they've made sure these cards are hard to find, rare, and they're unlikely, in my opinion, to reprint them anytime soon. They want that value to be there in the secondary market to justify the prices they charge. It all goes hand in hand with Wizards of the Coast's new strategy. Cards like this are just not going to be a regular occurrence. They want them to be rare, hard to find, unique, special. They want players to buy into the fact that there is secondary market value to these cards, and because of that reason, these cards are going to hold value for exceptionally long periods of time, in my opinion. Now, if I jumped over and shared a card from Bloom Burrow, you guys remember this one very well. This is Lumra, Bellow of the Woods, borderless raised foil. Look at the price on this thing. Now, I admit this one does not sell nearly as often, but at the same time, the prices on these things are insane, okay? When you look at a regular, a fractured foil, you look at the raised foils, all these different variant versions that Wizards of the Coast has offered up to players just lets you realize what they're trying to do. They are trying to create, they're trying to create a new market. And this market is based not only on playability, but collectability. Now, I know lots of players out there will look at these cards and say, I can get a regular version, it'll cost me like a fraction of the price. Absolutely. And that's part of the game plan of Wizards of the Coast. When you look at some of these cards that are only, let's say, 10 or 15 bucks, but a fractured foil one's like 400, they are catering to more than one market. They are trying to make sure that the standard players, the regular players, the average Joe out there can get these cards at a reasonable price, but still have value. And they want those super rare fractured raised foil, galaxy foil, halo foil, whatever you want to call it. They want those to be special, unique, and very hard to find. And because they have such a large paint palette of sets they can create, and all the different crazy artworks and variant artworks they can create and add on different foiling processes, you are going to see this expand over time. And because they don't want this to lose market share value, they're going to make sure they stay rare. Which means when you looked at the first two cards I shared with you, you look at Tiamat and you look at, of course, the Mox Amber. Those are they're an older school way of thinking about how rare and unique they'll be. And the only time you're going to see these cards now is going to be going forward into some crazy special guest slot. That'll be super hard, super rare, and unique with different variant artwork styles going on to it. That's the game plan. If you didn't get it in a standard set when it was released, the only way to get it after this is going to be in some specialty set. That is the game plan, and it is working very well. But this plays to a player advantage. Because we know that's what they're doing, many players hold on to their cards a lot longer. They can trade them at higher values. Stores feel more confident buying these cards at the higher value or trade-in values to trade for other cards, even reserve-list cards, because they know that that market is there for these cards. They know there's ways of moving them, and there's a lot of specialty players out there who just seek out these cards individually. It's an amazing market. It's fascinating to see how far we've come in the last 24 months, where it seems like the market has just changed itself in so many radical ways. I'm not saying a good or a bad way, just changed it up. They've changed and flipped the script on how they're going to present the game, that you now have more market space. You got the regular player who just wants to play every Friday night. You got the collectors, the investors, the flippers, the speculators, the tournament players. You got the casuals. There's so many ways of playing this game, so many ways, but the market all comes back to the same. And everyone, for the most part, hasn't been just getting slaughtered in value. Yes, there are certain cards that lose value. Yes, they reprint too much in secret layers, and they're probably trying to find ways around that now to get into new cards, which is why we haven't seen any Master Series sets right now, taking away and draining value, because they are building up a new stock portfolio of cards they can reprint later. That's why we haven't seen it in the last few months, anything coming along these lines, right? We're seeing lots of space being created with a lot of playable cards, uncommons, rares, mythics, actual playable cards that can be used in Commander and other formats that players will want if they ever and when they do create a new specialty set. Guys, it's crazy. I want to know what you guys think. I want you guys to drop some comments in the comment section. How do you feel knowing these cards have such incredible value points attached to them? How do you feel trading them and buying and selling them? And which cards are you after? Which ones do you own that have gained in value? I don't care if it's gone from $1 to $15. This is what I want to know. Thanks again for hanging out. Thanks for being here. And I look forward to seeing you guys each and every day. Shop smart, shop as smart, and we'll be back tomorrow with another video. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of my channel. Because of those patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible each and every day. Now, if you're a patron or a YouTube membership member, I always like to say thanks again for supporting the channel. Don't worry, new videos each and every day, of course, will continue. And you know what? Have an awesome day out there, because you patrons, you made it happen here on the channel. Thanks again. Welcome back to the Ramble and the Jamble. You made it. You're at the end. You can't leave now. You're stuck. Now let's think about this. You have all these expensive cards. Fractured foils, raised foils, halo foils. It is insane to think they're actually holding value, and not only holding value, they're actually selling. Now, no, they're not selling as many as Mox Amber or even Tiamat for that matter, but the price points are totally different. There are collectors out there seeking these cards out. And because these cards are actually playable cards, I mean even the Chocobo, right? I get it. But the other cards we're talking about, Ugin and these cards get played. They are used. And because they get played, the value stays very consistent. I'm surprised. I was really surprised on how many sales you saw month over month since release of many of these cards. Crazy stuff, man. It's awesome. I wonder how that will play out in the long run, though. And I wonder if Wizard of the Coast will try to tap into it, abuse it, and crash it. They're so well known for wrecking when they're doing things well. And building this market this way will benefit them in the long run if they can just leave well enough alone. Yeah, we'll see how it all turns out. Guys, have a great one. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to finish this coffee, and I'm going to go make some dinner. See you later.